And so being almost 50 years old is like my first job being a real estate agent. Like what do I have to offer? We went from 2 transactions a year to 22 transactions the next year. Biggest tip I can say to anybody for starting any business, and this is what I learned the hard way, is don't give up. Don't give up and then you'll succeed. But I've wanted to quit hundreds of times. She started crying and she said, we've been to 7 open houses in the last 2 weeks and no one has ever asked us if we need any help. You have been preparing for this role your whole adult life.
Welcome back to the Reno-Tahoe Real Estate Insider. Today, I'm sitting down with Linda Christensen. Linda was a homeschooling stay-at-home mom of 3 and is now the CEO and owner of her own real estate business, which is now thriving. So this is really a deep dive into how Linda beat the odds and now has a fantastic business in real estate. So Linda, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Shay, so much. I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
Well, thank you. So yeah, let's hop right into it. So homeschooling, stay at home.
Yeah, and I bring that up. I mean, you think these two worlds are completely different, right? Being a CEO of my own business and versus being a stay-at-home mom. To me, they're one and the same, and I had to learn that. And it's a fascinating journey that I was on. I was a stay-at-home mom for almost 40 years.
Wow, good for you.
And that's all I ever wanted to be, was mom. And God blessed me with a child right away at 20 years old, and I dove, both feet jumped in to be the kind of mom I dreamed of being. So it required so many skills along the way, which I want to talk about today. And, but in terms of being employable, I never felt like I was employable. Who would want to stay-at-home housewife mom, Right. And so being almost 50 years old is like my first job. Being a real estate agent, like what do I have to offer? So I had to do a lot of deep soul, diving in and really contemplating what it is I have to give. Because this was, being a mom was the hardest job I've ever done, the most rewarding job I've ever done. But I will say owning your own business is a very close second, and there's a lot of similarities there. So that's what I want to talk about today, some principles that I've learned along the way about relational, working with people on a relational level, giving back, and just what I love doing.
That's excellent. We have a 9-month-old now, first baby, and you said being a mom is one of the hardest things, or the hardest thing you've done, and it is quite challenging. And so, yeah, kudos to you, mother of 3, stay-at-home mom for 40 years, and now at 50 you got into the business.
Yes.
So yeah, tell me a little bit about what was that transition like?
I had a 12-year-old, a 15-year-old around that time, around that age. I was homeschooling him, and he was more independent at that time. My husband, who was also a real estate agent and my partner in my life and partner in my business, always wanted to be a real estate agent. So he started the business, and I really wanted to be his assistant, help him with the paperwork. I said, great, I'll get licensed, but I'm just going to help you. You are the front runner. You are the sales guy. You are the guy that everybody likes. I'm the introverted, antisocial person, and I'll help you behind the scenes, And we moved here to Reno, and we started up. So we didn't know very many people. So it was very, very difficult.
Where'd you move from?
We moved from California, the Bay Area.
Sweet.
And he had been he was a realtor over there for about 1.5 years. And then we moved and relocated. And, the first 18 months, we didn't have any transactions and no income coming in. So it was super hard. But I want to back up to being a mom. When you have kids, you have to learn what kind of personalities they have. Mm-hmm. You have to learn what kind of personality you have. You have to, what kind of learning style, especially homeschooling. I was so interested in education. It's been another passion of mine to teach. And so learning your children's personalities and what they like and what they don't like, I absolutely was obsessed with that. I wanted to know these little beings that I was raising, that God gave me to raise. And I wanted to know them and provide this great environment and experience for them, as all parents do. But learning their personality types, their learning styles. I didn't even know these labels when I was doing it, but now there's a lot of books on that subject of, teaching your child and learning their learning style. So I did it intuitively, and it really worked. And I got to know these 3 human beings that I'm just so proud to be their mom. But the relational thing was what was so rewarding to me. So when I started real estate, and I was just going to be behind the scenes, and then we had some really tough luck. A couple cars were totaled. We weren't making it in this. It was hard to break in, as a newcomer from California. It's hard to break in to at least the Reno area where we work. And I came across a coaching program, Brian Buffini, and I didn't have the money. It's very expensive. So I just did the very entry-level program, and I just started watching the videos and watching Brian, and he talked about, you don't need money. You don't need to market. You don't need to spend $9,000 a month marketing yourself. You can start meeting people and you can talk to people. And I'm like, okay, I don't like meeting people. I don't like talking to people. But I realized I learned a lot about myself. When you become, I think it's true with any business that you own, when it's your business, it's like very much like a baby.
Mm-hmm.
And how are you going to grow this baby? And what does this baby need to grow? And then all of a sudden I started identifying and realizing I've been doing this for 40 years. Mm-hmm. A business is not a human. It's very different, but it's very similar too. And once I clicked in that, oh, you have been preparing for this role your whole adult life. It exploded. So we went from 2 transactions a year to I got into coaching, and I had 22 transactions the next year. And it was just phenomenal. It was like I needed like a baby learning to walk, I needed to stumble and crawl and figure out my way. But once I got up there, Jim was like, go ahead, do whatever you want. I don't want to do this anymore, which wasn't true. He joined me, but he went and got a job. I sort of grew the business on my own, and I learned so many valuable tips along the way that no one tells you. It's super hard to start your own business. A lot of realtors don't think that that's what they're doing, but really you can, you have a lot of control over how you run your business and how you get your clients. Mm. And once I realized, okay, I can do it the way I want to do it, things prospered. And we're top producing, very successful agents today. He quit his job to join me because I have so much, I need his help. And he's like, oh, so the roles have been reversed in a way. He does bring in his own clients, but it was wonderful to discover I had what I needed. And that's really what I wanted to impart. That's one of the wisdom things. Like, you do have even when you're just beginning, you do have something to offer someone, because you've had life experience. And to be positive, and the biggest tip I can say to anybody for any business, starting any business, and this is what I learned the hard way, is don't give up. I mean, it sounds so simplistic to say, don't give up and then you'll succeed. But I've wanted to quit hundreds of times. Life gets you, and people are not always nice. And how do you deal with that? How do you deal with those relationships? Sometimes they're great and sometimes they're not great. So how do you navigate through that? Just getting back up and continuing on is the quickest, best way to succeed, is to not quit.
I want to take a step back and mention the fact that you did this at the age of 50, which a lot of people, they get into their rhythm of life and their lane and they never leave it, especially at, 50, 60, 65, 70. So very admirable that you did what you did at 50 after having largely, you were a stay-at-home mom and teacher of your kids for all those years. So it's not like you were behind the scenes running a marketing company, at a job that was paying you all these years. You started from scratch. Now, I will say, being a homeschooling mother, the ability to analyze a kid's personality and their nuances and the ability to read them and understand what makes them tick is so valuable. And I think you would likely agree with that. but all that to say is it's very impressive that you did what you did. So, with that being said, you mentioned a story. There's a first time home buyer story that you wanted to tell.
Right. So I absolutely, I was not interested in real estate. I absolutely love real estate. I love when you're a home mom, when you're a mom, it's the hardest job. You wear a million different hats. You're a nurse, you're an analyst, you're a therapist, you're a cheerleader, you're the person they come to when they're hurt. And they have a problem. You're a problem solver, so you have all those tasks. And once I translated that into real estate, and of course it took a few years, I had to learn the systems and I had to learn how to be more professional. So I just wanted to talk about, like, I work relational, not transactional. It's about the clients. They get to know me, they get to like me, and they get to trust me. And that is so important to me. Trust is everything to me, just like it is when you're raising children. You need them to trust you, that you are leading them. And it's a very important job. Well, I take my job as a realtor very important as well. But what's fun for me is the first time home buyer. I love maybe because they're so young. Well, they're not as young. The average age of the first time home buyer is like 40.
Yeah,
but I know a lot of younger in their 20s, and it's so fun to sort of see where they've come and then guiding them to that next step of home ownership and building wealth. So talk about this young man who was renting a room with 3 other guys in a house that his friend owned. And as he's sitting there paying rent every month, he's thinking about, hey, maybe someday I'd like to be the one that buys this house and rent out the rooms to my friends. So we got to talking. He came up to me, he goes, I think I'm ready. I'm not sure. I think I'm ready. We started talking, and the world sort of opened up for him. We showed him, why stop at a 3-bedroom house? Why not a 4-bedroom or a 5-bedroom or 6-bedroom? So we were looking at everything that was available in his budget, and the world just opened up for him. And it was the most exciting, exhilarating experience watching him. He ended up buying a brand new home, 5 bedrooms, and he had to invite another friend to come live. And, the renters pay his mortgage, and he's continuing to save. One day he'd like to be married, and he goes, and then I'll sell this house, right? And then buy the next one. I said, no, you will move out. You will have saved enough to buy your next home. And that's how you build wealth. But, it's something that I know. It's something that you know in your industry, but most people don't click that together. So I love that education piece of it, that, hey, you could do this, you could do that. So yeah, it's been phenomenal.
I think a lot of people, nobody's fault, right? But there's a lot of mystic behind what it's like to buy a house. And there's a lot of maybe hurdles that seem to be there that people may not be aware of. And especially on the lending side, I think lending gets people look at it as this, it's banking, it's finance, it's all these complex things. And it's really not all that complex if you have somebody that'll walk you through it and hold your hand as you go through it. But yeah, to see the light bulb go off for people once they realize, oh, wow, I can do this.
Right.
Man, I didn't even, I had no idea.
Isn't that fun? You experienced that too.
It's cool. And so being able to bring that joy to people is great. And so you mentioned that, and then there was another story you were talking about where you had some repeat business from a client, right? Do you want to dive into that?
Yeah, sure. And that goes along line with when I first started real estate, I was told, sit in a cubicle and make 45 calls an hour to expired listings. That's the only way you're going to get, leads, or go door knocking, which in our neighborhoods, it's a half-acre lots or acre lots. So actually walking the neighborhood is quite expensive. There's hills. Actually, your neighborhood isn't the easiest as well. Beautiful, but hard to probably walk. So we had to pivot. I mean, I didn't ever wanted to do that. That's not my personality at all. And, but I got a good listing, right away in my career. Only the seller decided that, I would hold open houses for him every Saturday, and he would sit in the kitchen and watch me have every open house. And so we ended up 22 weeks on the market. That's just what the market was. He had a price. And when the seller has a price, it takes a little longer to sell. So 22 open houses. I was like, I am a yes, I will type of person. So I wanted him to be happy and know that I was working hard for him. But I did not know all of the blessings that were going to come from doing 22 open houses in the same house. Number one, it showed it was my neighborhood. It showed the neighborhood that all my signs are out every Saturday. This happened multiple times in this scenario, but one person came in and met me, nice guy, and just sort of chatted with me for a few minutes and left. And I never thought anything about it. And the next Saturday, came back again. So they came probably 5 or 6 of those 22 open houses. He brought his wife. We talked more. He had a property that he was really trying to find the right person to sell. It was an completely off the grid property. And, I'm a fairly new agent, so I don't know a lot about off the grid. So how do you handle something when you don't know? That's another piece that you have to learn when you're a CEO. You have to know how to pivot. I'm a very honest person, so I just used the honesty track. I don't know, but I will find out.
Right.
I love to learn, and I will find out. And I did. And over the course of the weeks, I provided enough information to him to prove to him that I was helpful and that I could do the job. So I got this beautiful $950,000 listing, right, from this. And that turned into, I think we just completed our 8th transaction. He just bought a vacation home up here in your neighborhood. Wow. And he's family, he's friends. I have about 250 really close friends now that we have monthly dinners at our house. It's very relational. I really like to get to know who I'm working with, because the point of referral is if you like the person you're working with and they have other friends or family that are also like them, chances are you will like working with them too. And then I'm not spending as much time cold calling, knocking on doors, doing all of that transactional work to try to get new leads. I'm going deeper into my relational database, and it's so much more rewarding because it's that people-to-people contact.
That's fantastic. That 22 open houses every Saturday. So you were basically like a retail store.
It was like my shop.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how I felt.
Exactly. They knew you were going to be open on Saturday.
Yes. Another buyer
so
walked by me. Sorry to interrupt. Walked by me at that open house, and I said, "Hey, do you need some help? Do you have any questions?" And she started crying, and she said, "No one. We've been to 7 open houses in the last 2 weeks, and no one has ever asked us if we need any help." And I said, "Well, I would love to help you." And she said, "I have a house to sell and I'm looking to buy." And so it was 2 transactions. But that 22 open houses opened my eyes to that consistency, reaching out. So we pop by, we call, we send notes, we send books, we send gifts. We're very relational. Everybody is spoiled. And in turn, they spoil me. I get the final reward. It's very rewarding.
It's such a strong relationship that just goes back and forth and feeds each other, which is great. 22 open houses is phenomenal. That's not something you hear of. I mean, I know there's quite a few agents that don't do any or people push back on open houses nowadays, saying they often don't work or what have you, right? And so 22 is...
we have flags, we have signs, we have events. We do knock on doors. We knock on 100 doors before every open house, just to invite the neighbors over, because it's a party. We grill, we make it fun. We make it something that we enjoy doing, and then that attracts people. And I don't know if it's the vibe, if you will, that we present in the neighborhood, but it does get the house sold. I feel like.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
22 open houses on Saturdays. That is, gosh, unheard of. So
we've done it again and again and again. We are can do.
Well
we
done.
Can do it.
And that leads me to my next point, the can do attitude. Tell me a little bit about that story in the home in Dayton.
Yeah. So when you start out, you take anything, you take everything, any client. So we learned a lot. Now we're finally at the place where we interview the person. Are we a good fit? But in those days of doing everything, Dayton is pretty far from us. But we had a grandmother that was suffering from dementia, living alone. And the granddaughter was the only living relative. She was like 20 years old, and she just didn't know, really, she needed some guidance, much more than just how to sell the house or what the house would sell for. And that's the other thing that we're very, very good at. We can come in and point you to, well, you should talk to a lawyer about that. You should talk to an accountant about that. Here's the assisted livings here that we have interviewed for you, because we get that relocation type of thing a lot. So in this particular case, it was a manufactured home, very run down. She'd lived there a long time and hadn't upkept the house. And there was a lot of vehicles and tires and garbage all over I think it was 2 acres. Jim taught me this can-do attitude. Yes, we will. I mean, if it's legal, if we can do it, if we can learn how to do it, we'll do it. So she was just very, very distraught and didn't know how to do it. We got grandma placed in the home. So now we were vacant. She gave us the keys, trusted us, again, that trust element. And Jim set about trying to figure out how to get 8 unregistered vehicles off of property, which is very, very difficult to do. No one will tow them if they're not registered. So, and the junk people don't want them because they're supposed to be registered. So there's this whole red tape stuff. So we came across a Christian junk removal company. We love them to death. We talked and talked and talked. They surveyed the property. They gave us a quote of, I think, $25,000 or something to remove. No one had any money. No one had any so we talked them into, promised our dog, I don't know, if they would just do the work and we'll pay them.
We'll pay you at closing.
Yes, pay them at closing. And they never did that. They didn't believe in doing that with clients. They took a risk on us. And so we didn't want to let them down. But that was the only way we could get. Then they pushed us to another company that would take care of the cars. I mean, there was just all, the well was broken. The furnace was inspected and the whole house was considered condemned because the furnace was leaking so much gas. So that was very dangerous situation. So, just one thing after another. And it took several months and we cleaned the place up and we sold it for really good price because it was wonderful. It was all clean, new furnace, everything was fine. And then so the grandma had the funds to pay for her care. Granddaughter was very relieved, and it was just really wonderful to do this. I mean, it was, we reduced our commission. It wasn't about the money. And now as a result of that one, every year we don't say pro bono, but every year we try to help someone who everyone just passes by. Why would a realtor go on a listing presentation with that hot mess, Mm-hmm. So we can't do it every single time because, we only have a limited amount of resources, but we like to jump in where it takes, 3 or 4 months of physical. I cleaned the house myself several times, scrubbing toilets, windows, things like that.
That's so great.
Yeah.
That's so great. That is bending over backwards and figuring it out.
Yeah.
Being able to negotiate an escrow payment at closing to the car removal company for $25,000. That is unheard of.
Yes.
So that is amazing.
And the fact is that it's about helping people.
Certainly.
And me being an introverted person, I loved my children with everything I had. I didn't know I could form strong, deep relationships with a lot of people and want to help them the way I was helpful to my children. And it's been, there's something about helping and giving back that's the reward. I like having money. We like paying our bills and we like having money. I'm not going to say I don't, but it is not the main thing for me now. It's really fun to see who I can help.
I can see you light up when you tell these stories, and it's cool to see.
Thank you.
I can tell there's really a strong commitment to helping there. Speaking of giving back, there's some nonprofit fundraising, an event this past summer or this
coming up.
Okay.
Yeah. And thank you for letting me talk about it because talk about lighting up. This is my favorite topic to talk about now. Okay. But, all of we do, we are big, we love our community and we want everyone to know who we are. We want to give to the community. We want to provide a space. 2020 was hard on all of us. It is 2026, I know, but we're still not quite at that place where we have this kind of community feeling like it's really great to just be here out in the sunshine and enjoying everyone. So, but we also have a heart for an organization called Adopt a Vet Dental. And my husband served 14 years in the Navy. We love veterans.
Thank you.
And
your husband.
yes, and he was honored and proud to do it. but he had an experience with this nonprofit organization that gives dental services to veterans that are impoverished or don't get it from the VA. So the VA's requirements for providing dental for veterans is very strict. You have to have an injury from your time of service. So you can't just go like and so a lot of veterans are in pain or have oral pain that they can't afford to go to the dentist. So this nonprofit provides services, and of course they need donations. So we are planning a huge community event on June 27th in Spanish Springs, way far away from here, about an hour from here, in an Ace Hardware parking lot. We're going to have at least 20 sponsors that are giving money to this Adopt-A-Vet and then providing gifts that we can raffle. So you can come. There's going to be food trucks. There's going to be a live band. There's going to be a blood donation mobile as well, the Red Cross, because we learned that the Reno area, the hospitals, they need 150 pints of blood a day in order to just function. And so we have huge goals. We want to raise at least $10,000 for Adopt-A-Vet Dental, because that'll provide many veterans with some needed care. By the way, that nonprofit hires dentists in the community to perform the services. So and actually they donate. They do a reduction in their fees, so they're donating. So there's sponsors that are going to give away ski packages or golf packages, and we're going to raffle those off. And the blood donation, we're hoping to get 150 that day, which is huge. If we get 20 or 30, that's great. But, another thing we learned is, and one thing I taught my kids, reach as high as you can. Because even if you don't make your goal, goals are so important. Even if you don't make your goal, reaching for that goal stretches you, right? And so we may not make our goal, but that's okay. We want to have high, big goals and try to give as much as we can. And we're very excited about it.
That's so excellent. Adopt-A-Veteran Dental.
Adopt-A-Vet Dental.
Adopt-A-Vet Dental.
Yes.
And it's on June 27th.
June 27th.
Ace Hardware, Spanish Springs.
Yeah.
And there will be a blood drive. There will be a donation center.
Yes, we're going to have at least 20 sponsors, so they'll all have booths. I forgot to say that. So every sponsor, whether it's a store or somewhere, will have booths, and then live band, country music. I think it's country music, and so just a time of 11 a.m. Yes,
that's awesome.
And I'm sure there'll be something posted somewhere where they could reach me if you want to be a sponsor or donate blood on that event. I have a QR code. I don't know how we would do that, but
yeah, that is great.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to touch on before we wrap up? Or
no, it was fabulous. Thank you so much for just sort of pouring out my heart. That is the most important thing, is relating with people. It was great, meeting you and talking with you today. Thank you so much.
This has been fantastic, Linda. If people are interested in working with you or connecting with you, where can they go to do that?
Okay. 775-550-3738 is our main number. AskJimandLinda.com is our website, because we love questions. It's that teacher mentality. Ask us anything about real estate. And people ask us things about other things too, but primarily real estate. We're here to help.
That's great. Mm-hmm. Linda, thank you so much. It was a pleasure. And I appreciate you driving up, taking the time to do this, and it's clear that you are passionate about helping people. So I'm wishing you much success, and I'm wishing all the people you work with a very great home buying or home selling experience, which I know you can provide that. So thank you again.